Alex Rivera checked his watch for the third time. 9:51 in the morning. 9 minutes until the interview that could change everything. Triple salary, health insurance, a real bedroom for Emma. Then he saw her fall. A woman in a red blazer stumbled off the curb between parked cars, papers scattering across the asphalt. A car was speeding toward her, the driver staring down at their phone, not seeing her at all. Alex did not think. He just ran. He grabbed her arm and pulled her back between the parked cars, just as the vehicle blew past, horn blaring too late. Her ankle was already swelling. She could not walk, and his interview had just started without him. He had no idea the stranger he had just saved was the CEO waiting to meet him. That morning had started like every other morning in the cramped studio apartment Alex shared with his 7-year-old daughter. The apartment was 400 square feet of cracked linoleum and thin walls, located on the third floor of a building that had seen better decades. Emma slept on the only bed, a twin mattress pushed against the window where she could see the stars, while Alex made do with the sagging couch against the far wall. He woke before dawn, as he always did, and lay there in the gray light, listening to Emma breathe. She had kicked off her blankets again, one small foot hanging over the edge of the mattress. He watched the gentle rise and fall of her chest and felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle over him. She was counting on him. Only him. And today would determine whether he could actually deliver. The pile of envelopes on the kitchen counter seemed to grow larger every day. Medical bills from Emma's ear infection last month. $347 that his insurance did not cover because he did not have insurance. The rent notice, with its red stamp, reminding him that the 15th was approaching fast. A letter from the mechanic explaining that the brakes on his 15-year-old sedan were down to metal and needed immediate replacement. Alex pushed himself up from the couch, wincing as his lower back protested the movement. 36 years old, and he felt 50. He moved quietly to the closet, stepping over the floorboard that creaked, avoiding the corner of the coffee table that had bruised his shin more times than he could count. Inside, the closet hung exactly one suit. He had bought it 10 years ago for his wedding, back when life had seemed like a straight road leading somewhere good. Back when he thought he had found his person and his purpose and his future all wrapped up together. The fabric was a little worn at the elbows now, and the style was dated by about a decade, but it was clean and pressed, and it would have to do. He could not afford pride. Not today. He dressed carefully in the bathroom, the only room with a door, adjusting the tie 3 times before he was satisfied. He barely recognized the man in the mirror. When had those lines appeared around his eyes? When had his jaw gotten so tight, his shoulders so hunched? He looked like a man carrying something heavy. Because he was. Behind him, Emma stirred. She sat up in bed, rubbing her eyes with her fists, her brown hair tangled from sleep and sticking up in 3 different directions. She watched him button his jacket with the serious expression she sometimes wore, the one that made her look far older than 7, the expression that reminded him too much of himself. Today is the big interview day. Right, Daddy. Alex turned and knelt beside the bed so their eyes were level. He reached out and smoothed down her hair, though it immediately sprang back up again. That is right, sweetheart. If you get the job, will I have my own room? The question hit him harder than she could know. For 2 years, they had lived in this single room together, with a curtain Emma had decorated with marker drawings of flowers and butterflies, serving as the only barrier between her sleeping area and the rest of their life. She had never complained. Not once. Not when the neighbor's music kept her awake. Not when there was no space for her toys. Not when she had to do her homework on the edge of the bed because they did not have a desk. But he had seen her look at friends' houses. He had watched her face when she walked into other kids' bedrooms. Rooms with doors that closed and walls covered in posters and space to just exist. He had heard the longing she tried to hide. I am going to try my very best, he said, his voice catching slightly. I promise you that, Emma. I promise. Emma reached under her pillow and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She pressed it into his hands. Alex unfolded it carefully. She had drawn the two of them holding hands, standing in front of a house with two windows. Above them, in careful crayon letters, she had written, "Good luck, Daddy. For your pocket," she said. "So you won't be nervous." Alex folded the drawing and tucked it into his breast pocket, right over his heart. He kissed her forehead and told her to get dressed because Aunt Maria would be there soon. Maria arrived at 7:30, coffee in hand and worry in her eyes that she tried unsuccessfully to hide behind a bright smile. She was 3 years older than Alex and had been his anchor since their parents passed. When his wife left 2 years ago with nothing but a note on the kitchen table, Maria had driven through the night from Phoenix to help him pick up the pieces. She had held Emma while Alex sat on the kitchen floor, trying to remember how to breathe. "Senior IT Systems Manager," she said as Alex gathered his keys, her voice deliberately casual. $120,000 a year. Full benefits. Flexible hours. She reached out and straightened his tie even though it did not need straightening. "You deserve this, Alex. You know that, right? I know I need it." The words came out flat. Tired. "That is not what I said." She gripped his shoulders and made him look at her. "You are a good man. A great father. You deserve good things." Alex looked past her to where Emma was eating cereal at the small table, her legs swinging because her feet did not reach the floor. She was humming something under her breath, completely unaware of the stakes riding on the next few hours. 47 applications, he said quietly, so Emma would not hear. 47 rejections. I cannot afford number 48. Maria squeezed his arm. Then do not make it 48. Go show them who you are. The drive across Denver took longer than he expected. A fender bender on Colfax had traffic backed up for 6 blocks, and Alex found himself checking the clock on his dashboard every 30 seconds. He had planned to arrive 15 minutes early. Now he would be lucky to make it on time. In the crawling traffic, his mind drifted to how he had ended up here. 3 years ago, he had been a senior technician at a promising startup called Horizon Tech. Good salary, stock options, the whole dream. Then his wife announced she was leaving, that she had met someone else, that she had never really wanted to be a mother and could not do it anymore. She was gone within a week. The startup could not accommodate a single father who needed to leave by 5 for daycare pickup and could not travel on short notice. They let him go with a handshake and a month of severance. Freelancing had seemed like the answer at first. Flexible hours, work from home, be there for Emma. But flexible hours meant inconsistent income. No benefits meant paying full price for insurance he could barely afford. 2 years of scrambling from contract to contract, of robbing Peter to pay Paul, of lying awake at night doing math in his head that never quite added up. Then the posting for Meridian Consulting appeared. Senior IT Systems Manager. The salary would triple what he made freelancing. The benefits would mean Emma could see a doctor without him checking his bank balance first. The flexible scheduling policy meant he could still be her father first and their employee second. He had spent a week on the application, tailoring every word. When his phone rang 3 days later with an interview invitation, he had stood in the middle of his kitchen and cried. Now the clock read 9:47. The interview was at 10. He was still 8 blocks away with traffic showing no signs of clearing. His palms were sweating on the steering wheel. At 9:50, he finally spotted the Meridian Consulting building, a glass tower that caught the morning sun and threw it back in brilliant shards. It was the kind of building he used to work in, before everything fell apart. The kind of building that represented stability and success and a future he could count on. He scanned the street for parking, spotted a space 2 blocks up, and accelerated toward it. 10 minutes. He could make this work. He would make this work. That was when he saw her. A woman in a red blazer stepped off the curb between 2 parked cars. She was looking at something in her hand, maybe a phone, maybe notes for whatever meeting she was headed to. Her heel caught on the edge of the pavement, one of those moments that seems to happen in slow motion while you watch. She went down hard, her briefcase flying open, papers exploding across the street like startled birds. Important-looking papers, documents with charts and headers, and the kind of formatting that suggested serious business. She was blonde, late 30s maybe, dressed in clothes that cost more than his rent. A blazer that was definitely not from Target. Shoes that probably had a designer name he would not recognize. For one heartbeat, Alex calculated. Park the car. Run to the interview. Someone else will help her. She will be fine. There are other people on this street. Someone will stop. Someone who does not have everything riding on the next 13 minutes. Then he saw the other car. A silver SUV barreling down the street at least 15 miles over the speed limit, the driver's face illuminated by the glow of a phone screen, eyes down, thumbs moving in that familiar texting rhythm. The driver did not see the woman scrambling to gather her documents from the asphalt, did not see her reach for a paper that had blown under a parked car, did not see her at all. Alex did not remember making a decision. His body moved before his mind could catch up. He threw his sedan against the curb so hard the tires scraped, slammed it into park, and sprinted into the street. His dress shoes slapped against the pavement. The SUV was maybe 50 feet away, 40, 30. The woman looked up just as he reached her, her eyes going wide with confusion. He grabbed her arm and hauled her backward between the parked cars as the SUV blew past, horn screaming, close enough that he felt the wind of its passage, missing her by inches. They landed in a heap against a parked minivan, Alex's shoulder taking the impact, the woman half on top of him. The SUV driver never even slowed down, just kept going, probably still looking at their phone, completely unaware of how close they had come to killing someone. Papers drifted around them like snow. The woman was breathing hard, her eyes wide with shock, her whole body trembling. "Are you okay?" Alex extracted himself carefully and knelt beside her, his old combat medic training taking over without conscious thought. Airway, breathing, circulation. She was conscious and alert, pupils equal and reactive, not bleeding from anywhere visible. But her ankle was already swelling visibly, straining against the strap of her expensive heel, turning an angry shade of red. "My ankle?" she gasped. "I think I twisted it." Alex gently removed her shoe, his hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. He examined the joint carefully, probing with his fingers, watching her face for signs of severe pain. He had seen enough injuries during his 4 years as an Army combat medic to know the difference between a sprain and a break. The swelling was significant, but localized. No obvious deformity, no grinding sensation under his fingers. She winced when he applied light pressure, but did not scream or pull away. "Probably a sprain," he told her, keeping his voice calm and professional. "You need ice and elevation. Can you call someone to help you? I have a meeting in 15 minutes. Her voice was tight with pain and something else. Urgency, anxiety. The kind of tension that said this meeting was not optional. A critical meeting. I cannot miss it. Alex glanced at his watch. 9:53. 7 minutes until his own critical meeting. The meeting that would determine whether Emma got her own room, whether they kept the lights on next month, whether he could finally stop drowning. If he left right now, drove aggressively, ignored the speed limit, he might still make it. "Where is your meeting?" he heard himself ask, even as part of his mind screamed at him to get up, to get moving, to save himself. "Meridian Consulting, 3 blocks that way." She pointed east with a hand that shook slightly. Alex felt something cold settle in his stomach. The same building, the same company. The universe was either laughing at him or testing him, and he was not sure which, maybe both. He looked at the woman. She was trying to stand, putting weight on her injured ankle, her face going pale with pain. She could not walk. Not 3 blocks. Not 3 steps. She got about 6 inches off the ground before gasping and collapsing back against the minivan. He looked at his watch again. 9:54. He thought about Emma drawing that picture this morning, her small hand so careful with the crayons. He thought about what he wanted her to learn about the world, about what kind of people mattered, and what kind of choices defined a life. He thought about what kind of man he wanted her to know her father was. "Okay," he said, "here is what we are going to do. I am going to gather your papers, help you into my car, and drive you to your meeting. Then I am going to find you some ice and get you situated somewhere you can elevate that ankle." The woman stared at him as if he had started speaking another language. "You do not have to do that. You cannot walk on that ankle. And you said the meeting was critical." He was already crawling across the asphalt, collecting her scattered documents, straightening them against his knee. "Let me help." It took 4 minutes to gather all her papers, help her hop to his car, and get her settled in the passenger seat with her injured ankle carefully positioned. She made phone calls the entire 3-block drive, rearranging her morning schedule, her voice professional and commanding despite the obvious pain. This was a woman used to being in charge, used to controlling situations. The injury had rattled her, but she was already compensating, already managing. He learned her name was Vanessa, that she worked in corporate strategy, that the meeting she was heading to was important, but she would not elaborate beyond vague references to quarterly decisions and board expectations. She asked what he did, and he told her IT consulting, which was technically true even if it undersold how desperate his situation actually was. At the Meridian building, Alex double-parked with his hazards on and helped her through the lobby doors. The security guard started to object until he saw Vanessa's face and immediately stepped aside. Alex found a first aid kit behind the coffee bar in the lobby and retrieved an ice pack. He settled her into a leather chair near the elevator bank, her ankle propped on her expensive briefcase, ice secured against the swelling with a bandage he fashioned from a spare handkerchief. "Thank you," Vanessa said, and there was genuine gratitude in her voice, real warmth beneath the professional exterior. "You have been incredibly kind." Alex Rivera. He was already checking his watch. 10:03. The interview had started 3 minutes ago. 3 minutes, that might as well have been 3 years. "And you do not need to thank me." He did not wait for her response. He was already moving toward the elevator, jabbing the button for the 14th floor, watching the numbers climb with a sinking feeling in his chest. The elevator seemed to move in slow motion. Each floor that passed was another second lost, another nail in the coffin of his hopes. The receptionist on 14 was a young woman with sympathetic eyes and a practiced expression that said she had seen this before. Late candidates, nervous excuses, disappointed departures. She had probably watched dozens of people walk through that door with hope in their eyes and leave with nothing but regret. "Mr. Rivera?" She checked her screen, her fingernails clicking against the keyboard. "Your interview was scheduled for 10 o'clock. Miss Castellano does not tolerate tardiness. I am afraid. I understand. I apologize. There was an emergency." The words sounded hollow even to him. Everyone had an emergency. Everyone had a reason. Reasons did not pay bills. Is there any possibility of rescheduling? The receptionist picked up her phone and dialed an internal extension. "I will ask, but I should tell you." She paused, listening to whoever answered. Her expression was neutral, professional, but her eyes told him everything her words did not. This was a formality, a courtesy. The answer was already no. Alex sat down in the waiting area, the leather chair creaking beneath him. He could feel the drawing in his breast pocket, Emma's careful letters pressing against his heart. Good luck, Daddy. He thought about her face when he came home tonight. Thought about how he would explain that Daddy did not get the job because Daddy stopped to help someone. How do you tell a 7-year-old that doing the right thing sometimes means losing? How do you teach her that integrity matters when integrity does not pay the electric bill or put food on the table? He had done what anyone should do. He had helped someone who needed help, someone who could not help herself, someone who would have been seriously hurt if he had just driven by. And that choice, that single moment of choosing someone else's welfare over his own desperate need, had just cost him the only opportunity he had left to give his daughter the life she deserved. Minutes passed. 5. 10. Alex stared at the tasteful art on the walls, abstract paintings in soothing blues and grays that probably cost more than he made in 6 months of freelancing. He tried not to think about the stack of bills on his kitchen counter, about the rent notice with its red stamp, about Emma's face when she asked about her own room. The receptionist spoke quietly into her phone, glancing at him occasionally with an expression he could not read. "Mr. Rivera?" He looked up. The receptionist was staring at her computer screen with obvious confusion. "Miss Castellano will see you now. Conference room C." Alex blinked. "Really? Even though I was late?" "Apparently." She shook her head slightly, clearly as surprised as he was. Go figure. He followed the directions down a carpeted hallway, his heart hammering against his ribs. The conference room had glass walls. Inside, 3 people sat at a long table, a stern-looking man in his 50s with silver hair and a perfectly knotted tie, a younger woman with a tablet, fingers poised to take notes, and at the head of the table, her ankle propped on a stack of folders, an ice pack visible beneath the hem of her trousers. "Vanessa." She smiled as he walked through the door. Not a professional smile, a real one. "Mr. Rivera, thank you for joining us. I am Vanessa Castellano, CEO of Meridian Consulting." She gestured to the empty chair across from her. "I believe we have already met." The room tilted. Alex stood frozen in the doorway, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. The woman from the street, the woman whose papers he had gathered, whose ankle he had examined, whom he had driven 3 blocks and settled with ice. That woman was the CEO. The person conducting his interview, the person whose tardiness standards the receptionist had warned him about. "Hi, yes," he heard his own voice as if from a distance. "I helped you. I did not know you were the CEO, the person you were supposed to be impressing this morning." Vanessa's smile did not waver. "Please, sit." Alex sat. He could feel the other 2 interviewers watching him with undisguised curiosity. The older man's expression was unreadable. The woman with the tablet had stopped typing. Vanessa adjusted the ice pack on her ankle with a slight wince. "I would like to hear why you were late to what I assume you knew was an important interview." There was only one answer. The truth. "I saw someone fall in the street. She was injured, in danger. Her papers were everywhere, and there was a car coming. I stopped to help, even though it made you late." "Yes. Why?" Alex thought about lying, about spinning some story about not seeing the time, about traffic, about anything other than the choice he had actually made. But he looked at Vanessa Castellano and saw someone waiting to see what he was made of. "Because she needed help," he said. "Because some idiot on their phone almost hit her and did not even slow down. Because I am a father, and I would hope that if my daughter were ever in danger, someone would stop to help her instead of worrying about their schedule." The room was silent. Vanessa exchanged a look with the older man that Alex could not interpret. Then she nodded once and opened the folder in front of her. "The position you are applying for is Senior IT Systems Manager. According to your resume, you are currently freelancing, doing contract work. What made you apply for this role?" And just like that, they were in the interview. They asked about his technical background, and he answered confidently, drawing on 15 years of experience that ranged from Army communications systems to startup infrastructure to contract troubleshooting. They asked about his management philosophy, and he talked about leading by example, about empowering teams, about the difference between a boss and a leader. They asked about crisis management, and he described the time a server crash threatened to take down an entire company's operations and how he had worked 36 hours straight to rebuild the system from backups. The older man, whose name was Douglas, asked about his employment gap. Alex did not sugarcoat it. His wife left. He needed flexibility for childcare. The startup could not provide it. He chose his daughter over his career, and he would make the same choice again. Throughout it all, Vanessa watched him with an expression he could not quite read, evaluating, calculating, but not cold. Finally, she leaned forward. "One last question, Mr. Rivera." Alex nodded. "You knew this interview was critical for your family. You knew being late might cost you the job, but you stopped anyway to help a stranger." Her eyes held his. "Do you regret that choice?" He thought about it honestly, took his time, gave her the respect of a real answer rather than the quick response she was probably expecting. "No," he said finally, "because I want my daughter to grow up knowing that doing the right thing matters more than getting ahead. I would rather struggle financially than teach her that other people's welfare is less important than our convenience. Even if it cost you this opportunity?" "Even then," he paused, "though I really hope it did not, because I genuinely need this job and I am genuinely qualified for it. But yes, even if it did." Vanessa's smile changed, softened, reached her eyes in a way it had not before. "Gentlemen," she said, turning to her colleagues, "do you need more time, or can we make a decision?" Douglas shook his head. "I have heard enough." The woman with the tablet nodded. "Same." Vanessa turned back to Alex. "Mr. Rivera, we would like to offer you the position. Senior IT Systems Manager, starting salary of $120,000, full benefits, and flexible scheduling to accommodate your parenting responsibilities." The air left Alex's lungs in a rush. "You are offering me the job? Even though I was late? You were late because you saved my life and took care of me when you had every reason to prioritize your own needs." Vanessa adjusted the ice on her ankle. "That tells me more about your character than any interview answer could." She straightened in her chair despite the obvious discomfort. "I built this company on the principle that we hire good humans first, skilled professionals second. You are clearly both." Alex felt something break open in his chest. Relief? Gratitude. The strange vertigo of a life-changing direction so fast he could barely keep his balance. "I do not know what to say." "Say yes." "Say you can start in 2 weeks." "Say you will bring that same integrity to this role that you showed this morning." "Yes." The word came out rough. He cleared his throat. "Absolutely yes." After the paperwork was signed and the start date was set, Alex found himself riding down in the elevator with Vanessa. She was leaving early for a doctor's appointment about her ankle, crutches borrowed from the building's first aid station tucked under her arms. "Can I ask you something?" she said as the elevator descended. "Of course. If you had known I was the CEO, would you still have stopped?" Alex did not hesitate. "Of course." "You were hurt. That does not change based on your job title." Vanessa was quiet for a moment. "Most people see opportunities, not people. They would have weighed the cost-benefit and kept driving. Then most people have their priorities wrong." She laughed. It was a good laugh, warm and genuine. "You are going to do very well here, Alex. We need more people who understand that success means nothing if we have lost our humanity achieving it." The elevator doors opened. They walked through the lobby together, past the chair where she had sat with ice on her ankle, past the coffee bar where he had found the first aid kit. At the door, she paused. "I will see you in 2 weeks, Mr. Rivera." "Alex," he said. "Please, Alex." She smiled. "Thank you. For everything." He watched her navigate toward a waiting car, crutches clicking on the pavement. Then he walked to his own battered sedan, sat behind the wheel, and called his sister. "Maria." His voice cracked. "I got the job." Her scream of joy was so loud he had to hold the phone away from his ear. 2 weeks later, Alex walked into Meridian Consulting as an employee. The job was everything he had hoped and more. Challenging work that engaged his mind, fair pay that actually covered the bills, colleagues who respected boundaries and understood that people had lives outside the office. But the real magic happened on his 3rd Saturday in Denver's new apartment. Emma stood in the middle of her bedroom. Her bedroom. A room with 4 walls and a door that closed and windows that let in the afternoon light. It was empty except for her bed and a small dresser, waiting for the decorations she would choose herself. "This is really mine?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Just mine." Alex knelt beside her. "Just yours, baby." She turned and threw her arms around his neck. He felt her small body shake with sobs and realized she was crying. Happy tears. The kind of tears you cry when something you have wanted for so long finally, impossibly, becomes real. "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything in the world." That night, after she fell asleep in her new bed with her new nightlight casting stars across her new ceiling, Alex sat on the couch in the living room of their two-bedroom apartment and let himself feel the weight of what had changed. The medical bills were paid. The car was fixed. For the first time in 2 years, he had gone to sleep without doing math in his head, without calculating which bill could wait another week. But it was more than money. At Meridian, he had found something he had stopped believing existed, a company that meant what it said. In his first month, he watched them pause a critical product launch to handle an employee's family emergency. He saw senior leadership take pay cuts rather than lay off junior staff during a difficult quarter. He experienced a workplace where doing the right thing was not just encouraged but expected. Vanessa's ankle healed. She stopped using the crutches after a week, though she still winced sometimes when she walked too fast. One afternoon, she passed by his desk and paused. "Settled in, okay?" Alex looked up from his monitor. "More than okay. I wanted to thank you again, not just for the job, but for he," gestured vaguely at the office around them. "For this place being what it is," Vanessa smiled. "That is exactly why I hired you." 6 months later, Vanessa called him into her office. He walked through the door, expecting a project update or a new assignment. Instead, she gestured to the chair across from her desk and waited until he sat down. "I want to tell you something," she said. "About that morning, the morning you helped me." Alex nodded, unsure where this was going. "I was on my way to a meeting when I fell. A meeting with our board of directors." She paused, and something shifted in her expression, something heavy. "I was going to approve a major cost-cutting measure, outsourcing our entire IT department to save money, firing 12 people. Her eyes met his. "Including the position you now hold." Alex felt the words hit him like a physical blow. 12 people, the entire department, his colleagues, his job. "What changed your mind?" Vanessa was quiet for a moment. "You did." Watching someone sacrifice their own critical opportunity to help a stranger reminded me what I had built this company to be. We do not cut people to pad profits. We find better ways. She leaned back in her chair. "So instead of outsourcing, we restructured. Found efficiencies elsewhere. We not only kept the IT team but expanded it. With your hire." Alex's throat felt tight. "I had no idea. The meeting I was late to because of my ankle was with the board. I walked in with a sprain and a completely different proposal than they expected." Several board members were furious. One demanded to know what could possibly have changed my mind in the 30 minutes between leaving my house and arriving at the office. "What did you tell them?" Vanessa's smile was small but genuine. "That I had been reminded what actually makes a company valuable. Not lower costs, but better people. That I would rather have a team of Alex Riveras than save money with contractors who drive past someone in need without slowing down." Alex did not trust himself to speak. He thought about his colleagues in the IT department. Kevin, who had 3 kids and a mortgage. Lisa, who was putting herself through night school. Marcus, who had just proposed to his girlfriend. 12 people who still had their jobs because a stranger helped a woman who fell in the street. That morning, he finally managed. "I thought I had ruined everything, that I had cost my daughter the security she deserved." Vanessa shook her head. "You gave her something better. You showed her that integrity is not negotiable, that other people matter, that doing right is more important than getting ahead." She is going to grow up with a father who models the kind of human we all should be. I just did what anyone should do. Exactly. Vanessa's voice was soft, but most people do not. That is what makes it remarkable. A year after the morning that changed everything, Alex stood in the crowd at Meridian's annual company meeting. Vanessa was at the podium, recognizing outstanding employees, calling names and sharing stories of excellence and dedication. When she called his name, Alex was genuinely surprised. He had done his job well, but so had many others. Alex Rivera, Vanessa said to the assembled company, joined us under unusual circumstances. He was late to his interview because he stopped to help an injured stranger who turned out to be me. A ripple of laughter moved through the crowd. Most people had heard the story by now, though the details had grown more dramatic with each retelling. In the year since, he has exemplified the values this company was built on, putting people first, acting with integrity, understanding that how we treat each other matters more than quarterly profits. She paused, looking directly at him across the room. But more than that, his choice that morning reminded me why this company exists. We are not here to maximize shareholder value at the expense of human decency. We are here to prove that success and integrity can coexist. Alex showed me that is possible, even when it costs you something. Thank you, Alex, for the reminder and for everything you have contributed this year. The applause was warm and genuine. Colleagues who had become friends clapped him on the shoulder as he made his way back to his seat. Afterward, several people approached him, sharing their own stories. Times when Alex had stayed late to fix someone's urgent problem. Hours he had spent mentoring junior staff. Small kindnesses that had rippled outward in ways he had never noticed. That evening, driving to pick up Emma from after-school care, Alex thought about the chain of events that had led him here. One moment of choosing someone else's welfare over his own ambition, one decision that had felt like sacrifice but turned out to be investment. Investment in his daughter's understanding of what mattered. Investment in his own integrity. Investment in a career built on values rather than just opportunity. Emma was waiting by the door when he walked in, her backpack already on, a piece of paper clutched in her hand. "I made this for you," she said, holding it up. Another drawing. This one showed 3 figures holding hands in front of a tall building with glass windows. Him, Emma, and a woman with yellow hair. Above them, in careful letters that had improved remarkably over the past year, she had written, "Our family thank you." Alex felt his eyes sting. "Who is the yellow-haired woman, Miss Vanessa?" "Because you helped her, and then she helped us." Emma looked up at him with those serious eyes. "That is how it works, right, Daddy? You help someone and then good things happen?" He knelt down to her level. "Sometimes, baby. Not always. Sometimes you help someone and nothing good happens to you at all. Sometimes doing the right thing is hard and you do not get anything back." Emma considered this. "But you still should do it?" "Yes. Because it is right. Because the person you help matters whether you get something back or not. Because the kind of person you are is not about what you get. It is about what you give." Emma nodded solemnly. Then she smiled, the worry lifting from her face. "I want to be like you, Daddy." Alex pulled her into a hug. "You already are, sweetheart. You already are." In the car on the way home, Emma chattered about her day, about the project she was working on, about the friend who had shared her lunch when Emma forgot hers. Alex listened and responded, but part of his mind was elsewhere, thinking about that morning a year ago, about the split-second decision that had seemed like disaster and turned out to be a doorway. "Daddy, you are smiling," Emma observed from the back seat, "just thinking about how lucky we are. Because of your job? Because of the choices that led to the job. Because sometimes doing the right thing, even when it is hard, leads to better places than you can imagine." Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Like when you helped that lady who fell? Exactly like that. I am glad you helped her. even though you were late. Me too, baby, me too. Outside the car windows, Denver scrolled past in the golden light of early evening. A city full of strangers, each carrying their own burdens, their own hopes, their own moments of decision. Somewhere out there, right now, someone was facing a choice. Help or hurry on, sacrifice or succeed. Alex thought about the person he had been a year ago, sitting in that waiting room, certain he had ruined everything. He thought about Emma in her new bedroom, with her door that closed and her walls waiting for decorations. He thought about 12 colleagues who still had their jobs, their mortgages, their futures. Sometimes the moments that look like disasters are actually doorways. Sometimes the opportunities you think you have lost by doing right are replaced by opportunities you would never have found by doing wrong. Sometimes the stranger you help turns out to be the CEO who gives you not just a job, but a chance to prove that integrity and success are not opposites. They are partners. One woman falling in the street, one choice to stop. One interview missed that became something more important than any interview could be. That is all it takes to change everything. A single moment of choosing who you want to be. A decision to help when it costs you something. The willingness to bet your future on the belief that doing right matters more than getting ahead. Alex Rivera had made that bet, and he had won something far more valuable than a job. He had won the chance to show his daughter what it means to be a good human in a world that often rewards the opposite. He had won colleagues who became friends and a company that matched his values. He had won the knowledge that when his moment came, he had not looked away. The best measure of a person is not what they do when everyone is watching. It is what they do when they think no one will ever know, when they have everything to lose and nothing to gain, when the easy choice and the right choice point in opposite directions. Alex had chosen right, and in the end, that had made all the difference.